Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to some of you, and peace out to the rest of you. Hit the share button because the message is more important than the messenger. Let me give shouts out to the last two Cash App donors, S. Jock and Kevin D. again. From the bottom of my black heart and from the depths of my black mind. Thank you. This particular message of mine is partially religious. Partially. It's not the only focus, but it's going to be a major underliner of this message. Even if I didn't want it to be, it would have been. It's about something else, but this could be confused with being a religious message, even if I didn't think of it as such. And people who speak to large audiences, online or in person, sometimes have to anticipate the thoughts of their audience and think from the standpoint of audience members. And I have to do that. So you saw the title. I believe the features when it comes to Andrew Tate, and I believe a lot of middle nation when it comes to Tate. Tate is a new Muslim. There are things that you have to learn about the religion when you join, and if you studied it beforehand, you may have a bit less to learn in the beginning, but you never stop learning, so you still have things you got to learn. Ideally, one should study the faith before accepting, then accept with knowledge, and then learn more. Ideally. I was one of those that was lucky enough to be able to do so, and there are other people who know a hell of a lot more than I do, including the features. I'm going to start by telling you that Andrew Tate is a manipulator of sorts. You may be surprised to hear me say that, but he is. Andrew Tate has talked about manipulation, and I haven't kept up with everything that he said since he became Muslim, but I do know that he is a manipulator of sorts in his history, and in his skill, he still is, because you don't lose that skill. Andrew Tate, and Tristan by extension, can use that skill for better or for worse. I don't know how true every single charge is. Maybe the investigation started before he became Muslim. Maybe. Maybe it did not. I don't think it's a coincidence that they picked him up shortly after accepting Islam publicly. But then again, I'm a pessimistic man who hardly ever believes that something bad was just a coincidence. There are times I believe in it, but this is not one of them, and that's because I don't have the experience to say, oh, that's just a coincidence. Really? If they were investigating him from before, then they must have sped it up after he accepted Islam. That may be more reasonable. I was threatened with something, not the likes of what he's had to face, but I was threatened. I was told that I would be framed in a nutshell, because the people talking had to have known I didn't do anything, or at least had to not know anything I could have done. So they even said, well, we could get you thrown away for 3 years now, but we're going for the 30. And they were cyber vigilantes. But for them to say that they had enough to don't get me thrown away into captivity for any length of time meant that somebody was willing to tell some particular lie. So they're willing to go for somebody that could tell a lie that would get me thrown away for longer than that. And I knew some people that got arrested, or I knew of some people being arrested, and others that I knew not face to face, but I knew them online, got arrested. And then somebody I knew face to face got arrested. And then Someone I knew online died young. I say this because I didn't underestimate what the Matrix can do. But I'll tell you this, let's look at what Andrew Tate has said, because Andrew Tate could have played a character and said things that were not true, but they're against him. So they still serve as confessions, and then and I think more charges will be piled on later. And the other flip side is that Andrew Tate could have actually done these things and said these things, and he could have done what he said he did. Now, if I think they're going to get him on trafficking, and I don't know if they're going to get him on this struggle snuggle charge. But if you deceive somebody to get them to do something, somebody could somebody could theoretically say that you trafficked them. If he didn't actually trick anybody except by pretending to be in love with them. I don't know what Romanian law says, but if enough witnesses say that that's what happened, well, then they got him. And they want to get him. Nobody wants Andrew Tate. No one in any non-Muslim government wants someone like him to go free. But I'm going to tell you what the reason is, though, that they would have an interest in going after him more so now than they would have before. And I'll tell you this. Andrew Tate does talk about, or he has talked about, manipulating women. Do I think he will protect women? Yes, I do. I do believe he will protect them. There's a video of him doing that. But he talks about manipulating women in some videos and in some Hustlers University. And I'm going to let you know right off the bat that the ability to manipulate women is something that not only has he needed, but that's something that men in general need. My father needed that to a certain extent. And I don't like that. But it's not up to men how necessary that ability is. It's up to women, and women in general. And this is something I'm talking about across cultures have made some level of that necessary. The question becomes, how much so? Have they made a minimum of that skill necessary, or have they made it necessary to the point you never have a sufficient skill level at it, like in the West? Well, that might change. But at the very least, you will have to do things to manipulate the woman you love into not missing planes and trains and automobiles when you travel with her. It'll start there. At the very least, you might have to say, listen, here's what we'll do. Don't pack that big ass bag if we're going for 3 days. Instead, here's some clothing money in case you wind up needing some more clothes for whatever reason. And if you don't need it, don't spend that. Save it for another trip. Something, because as you know, traveling with them is major stressful, but not traveling with them or traveling without them, well, after a while, that gets to be problematic. So you can't win for losing, because they got to have everything. But they're not going to carry all the weight of that. Well, yeah, that gets to be problematic. I would agree. It effing sucks. So you can't really win when it comes to that without manipulation of some sort. You're supposed to be somewhere by a certain time. Okay, let her buy the tickets. You'll be late. Maybe if she buys them, she'll be more apt to try to be early for it. But you get them, don't tell her what time it actually starts. She will be late. I'm getting ready. Yeah, hurry up. Wait. Stop saying wait. No. You want me to just go like this? That's the bare minimum. Now, how much more so in the West? They'll leave you alone because you're ugly. They'll leave you alone because you're handsome. They'll leave you alone because you're in the middle. And that's them leaving you alone. But then when you're with them, they're trying to manipulate you. So in order to not be manipulated, you have to manipulate them. And in order to do that, you got to learn something. And what I want you to realize, and part two of this is probably going to be a hell of a lot longer. What I want you to realize is that Andrew Tate is sitting on that knowledge. Or not sitting on, I mean, he's talked about that before. Now he is Muslim. What happens when young Muslim men begin to look at that knowledge of how to do it, but they're not going to try to do this just to fornicate. However, they're at least going to look at what that skill is, what it takes, so that they are no longer manipulated. Because I'm telling you now, in the Muslim world and in the West alike, young Muslim men are prime targets for manipulation because they're not as experienced when they start off. So they are prime targets for it. Muslim women, oh, they're getting as much experience as the disbelieving women. So they're learning as much as disbelieving women about manipulating men. But when it comes to the men, who's teaching them anything? Nobody. Now, since Andrew Tate may very well have done something wrong and illegal before he became Muslim, and if not, he said he did, playing a character, which is still going to be used against him and very successfully. The fact is that now, young Muslim brothers, you're going to have to take what he has said, filter it through the proper Islamic filter and lens, and understand that knowledge so that it cannot be used against you. I'm not telling you to use it for the worse, but understand it so you can use it for the better in a marriage, at the very least, so that it's not used against you. You may not have to, maybe you don't want to play the games, fine. Know what they are so that they're not played against you, because otherwise they will be. There is not a Muslim country right now where the institution of marriage is being strengthened. It's either staying the same or it's getting worse, and divorce rates are rising, and more broken and splintered families are popping up. There's nowhere where it's getting better, though. That doesn't exist. They've already told me, somebody told me back in 2018, he said the women there, they want all the rights of the Muslim woman and of the disbelieving woman thrown together and the responsibilities of neither. And demanding that. He said that was in Egypt. One woman got arrested. I don't know what happened. But one woman got arrested for being married to two men at the same time. Yeah. We can see where this is going. Ain't no ease and ain't no convenience. None. Everything that we see happening right now in the West is either about to happen in Muslim countries or somebody's trying to make it happen and it's not successful. Those are the two. Or the third option is it's already started to happen. The UAE has a problem with sugar daddies and sugar babies. My question is, why don't they have a rise in sugar mamas? You want that liberation, get it. That's what comes with it. So, yeah, I wanted you all to know and understand what this was going to mean. I wanted you to know and realize that I don't think, one, I no longer assume that Tate did absolutely nothing. I don't think he did as much as he said he did. I really think he was talking to play a character. But nonetheless, he's going to have to be made an example. I don't want it, but I realize that that's a necessity. And that's so that people that learn to stop pretending to be as illegally edgy as they may pretend to be to try to get sales. But that also says something about the market. The market is that which we form as the people, we have to start demanding more morality where we spend our money. We as a consumer market have not been that way. We've actually been the opposite, which is why gas station owners can't decide they're not going to sell alcohol and cigarettes and porn and pork and still keep the business open where you live. That's why it is that part of the reason, at least, that a lot of rappers and entertainers can't make as much money off of us if they don't swear and talk about stereotypical BS. We can talk about the role of the record executives, and that would be very valid, I'm pretty sure, but by the same token as us. What do we want to listen to? Kick too much knowledge and elevation, and then nobody will listen to you. The rapper Paris should have been more popular than he was. Anyway, that's us. But he is sitting. Tate is sitting on something that a lot of young Muslim men are going to need. And while this is knowledge that they should balance, of course, balance out with the rulings of the faith and filter through the rulings of the faith, this is still knowledge of still some knowledge they need, because number one, you can manipulate, if you can manipulate someone at all, you can manipulate them for the good or for the bad. Number two, you're in a situation now where if you don't learn to manipulate, you'll get manipulated, because this is a gender war in which we're involved. And it's not being limited geographically, it's being exported. And right now, a lot of young Muslim men are victims of this even more so than non-Muslim men in the West and in Muslim lands alike, but especially so in the West and increasingly so in Muslim lands. See, right now, where I live in Saudi, there are women who make a living extorting men. Make a living doing that. Some of them get these ride shares and they sit up and they say things like, look, if they get in a ride share, like an Uber, they get in. Now they're supposed to pay for the ride, and they immediately start with, listen, I want some money or I'm going to say you harassed me. And since there's some young male drivers here that don't even pick up male passengers, they only get the job to meet women, it's believable. But there are women who sit up and say this. And most guys are like, we're not doing this. And the women, true to their word, say this, and they report them to the company. And if they really want money, they report them to the authorities. There are women who will sit up and they have somebody film them. So they give a guy a particular look in a way that the camera can't pick up that angle. And they give the look that's supposed to, it's in their culture, supposed to mean, come here, big boy. The guy goes over, says something, and she acts appalled and stunned. And her friend is sitting up recording the approach in which he's acting appalled and stunned. So now he's recorded walking over to her to try to spit some game because she gave a choosing signal. So she set the trap. His dumb behind walked in, and now she gonna sit up and whitemail him. Listen, I won't bring a case, but this is how much I want for you trying to flirt with me. I don't want to be harassed like that. And so you see where this goes. There are women here trying to do that. Manipulation to get money. After they've manipulated and uh, white mailed and extorted their way into a good bit of money, eventually they're going to want somebody. And then what? I hope that they never find anyone after they've done that. Not that I think it's okay for the men to go walking up trying to flirt for nefarious reasons either. But these are the Tates are a pair of brothers on whom it is hard for the women to run their games, and this is what I do want young men to learn, especially Muslim men, especially the young ones. But since we can't sit up and say that the Tates are going to be above the law just because some of you want them to be, and because we cannot blindly support anybody, Muslim or not. But I want to say to you young brothers is that you're going to have to learn what it is they taught and filter it through Islam. And that's some work you're going to have to do on your own. Because I don't see Andrew developing right now as a Muslim is supposed to. And granted, he's got a case to fight. He's pretty busy with that. And I'm not keeping up with everything he says. I got my own job to do right now. But the point is that he's not about that filtering business right now. So that's something you're going to have to do. To learn so that you aren't going to be an easy target. But not to oppress somebody else either. I hope that what I said helps. And I mean that from the bottom of my black heart and from the depths of my black mind. Thank you for listening. As always, black heart, black mind, black out. Assalamu alaikum and black. Heterosexual, non-select male power because they don't like it in black patriarchy until extinction or judgment day. Thank you for flying again with us on Jet Black Airways, with Jet Black is also a verb. Keep jetting black with us till the wings and the wheels fall off. Gender, justice, forever.